Hello everyone, welcome to another Flesh and Blood video. In this one, we'll be going over Azuri Switchblade with new cards from the Hunted. In part the Mist Veil all the way back, Azuri got a bunch of new support with a lot of the stealth synergy cards, mainly cards like Just a Nick and the brand new stealth cards Bonds of Agony and Persuasive Prognosis. Those turn Azuri from a pretty standard mid-range deck that wanted to use her ability to gain extra value by cheating out some 2-for-6s into a deck that was a lot more tricky, either pumping up the stealth cards or swapping them out for disruptive hit effects. But now, with new support from the Hunted, we have a little more stealth disruption as well as a few more synergies to help the deck run. With that, let's get started. Azuri, as we know, is a 4 intellect, 40 health assassin hero. She does have a long ability, so I'm just going to sum it up. If you're attacking with a stealth card, you can banish a card from your hand face down. If that card costs 2 or less and is an attack, you can put that stealth card that you're attacking with on the bottom of your deck and then make that other attack the attacking card. This allows you to cheat out things like Command and Conquer or Shakedown after playing just a blue 1-power stealth attack like Persuasive Prognosis or Isolate. But because Azuri has access to a bunch of stealth pumps now, your opponent has to make the choice of, is this going to become a disruptive 2-for-6, or is this going to stay the very powerful 1-power blue attack and just get bigger? With that, for the equipment, mainly the weapon, we're playing 2 copies of Hunter's Clave. This allows us to be a little more tricky using Take Up the Mantle to turn any of our stealth attacks into a different stealth attack, as well as use Mark the Black Widow for a little bit of extra added disruption. We're also combining that with the Mask of Perdition alongside the Black Tech Whispers. These are 2 silver needing cards, but they can give us some repeatable blocking value. Mask of Perdition is pretty powerful here since we're opting to play Already Dead, especially now, even though 2 Mystic Heroes just rotated, which are heroes that play a lot of non-action cards. Already Dead is very powerful when you consider how many reactions are going around still, as well as a lot of the light decks are still playing a lot of instants in their decks, so Already Dead can easily generate us some free silver. We're playing Tunic because, of course, this is Azuri. Our games are going to go pretty long, and we're playing Flick Knives so we can help close out a game or apply marks to our opponents when needed. Overall, the equipment are pretty standard. Instead of Mask of Perdition, you could play something like the Crown instead, just for a bit of extra 2-blocking card cycling, as Azuri could use that cycle sometimes, as her hands can clog up a bit. But I think Mask of Perdition is pretty good here to help generate us some extra silver or extra disruption, alongside cards like Art of Desire Body or Leave No Witness, especially, because those 2 are very powerful, especially Art of Desire Body, as giving it the extra banish lets us draw an extra card, since a lot of decks right now are in a lot of reds. But with that, let's get started with the actual main board. For the main board, we can see that we have a 54-card main board. That means we're going to be adding in 6 cards every game, or subbing out cards, but mainly adding in 6 cards every game, at least. For our stealth package, I want to talk about that first because that's sort of the main thing that Azuri wants to be doing. We're playing 3 Bonds of Agony, 3 Isolate, 3 Mark of the Black Widow, and 3 Persuasive Prognosis. These are just the best of the best. If you didn't want to play the fully marked version of this deck, you can, instead of Mark of the Black Widow, play Backstab, as that's an effect that stops your opponent from using defense reactions. But we don't mind our opponent using defense reactions since we want to swap into Already Dead and then possibly pump it. Or shred their cards with things like Tarantula Toxin or actual shred in our inventory. But these blues help us get some added disruption, especially alongside Just a Nick, as Persuasive, Mark, and Bonds all give us an insane amount of disruption to our opponent, getting cards out of their hand pretty much for free, which just gives us more room to set up our bigger turns. The last blue in the deck is Surgical Extraction, as it's a good blue that we can pitch early, or if we need to, we can swap it out with our Azuri's ability. For the meat of the deck, let's take a look at the reds. This is mainly where most of our 2 for 6s are. The ones that we're mainboarding are 3 copies of Shakedown, 3 Command and Conquer, and 3 Already Dead. Already Dead was printed in Bright Lights. This card didn't really see much use at the beginning, but it kind of pushed Uzuri into more of a contract route until we, of course, saw Park the Mistveil. I think Already Dead is a really cool card, especially right now, as a lot of decks play some pretty key equipment, and landing a hit with a swapped Already Dead can be incredibly powerful into those matchups. And then, of course, Command and Conquer and Shakedown are just Azuri bread and butter. So there's not really much we need to talk about them for. The only other big-ish attack in our deck, of course we might swap out into a Leave No Witness, but I wouldn't really consider that a big attack, is Enlightened Strike. Not a card you want to swap out into, but it is an extender that allows us to play our 4-card hands pretty well, as it can use another card in our hand to gain go again, or if we are on a 2-card hand, we can just throw it for 7 or for 5 and get an arsenal back. We have another extender in the deck now, thanks to the Hunted, Pain in the Backside. This is 0 for 3 that on hit lets us flick a dagger at our opponent, which the best part is it won't break the dagger. This is a way we can mark our opponents for follow-up, take up the Mantle plays, or mark the Black Widow plays, without having to flick a dagger or actually swing the dagger itself. It's just another extender that can help us play our higher card count hands. The last not stealth red synergy card we're playing is Leave No Witness. Leave No Witness simply is just a 0 for 4 with a banishment of Arsenal on hit. It generates a silver. We all know what Leave No Witness does. It's been the best assassin card since Assassin actually released, seeing play in pretty much every assassin deck ever at 3. And then finally we have some stealth and stealth synergy cards. Infect is an on-hit to inflict 2 Blood Rot Pox. It's the best of the plagues right now, since the extra 2 damage pretty much makes this a 0 for 5 on hit. You do end up swapping it out a fair amount, but it is still a stealth card that can threaten a bit of extra damage. Art of Desire Body is one that we've already talked about, letting you banish the top card of your opponent's deck on hit, and because a lot of people are playing a whole lot of reds, you'll generally draw a card or gain a life most of the time on hit, making this a very powerful way to gain an arsenal. Razor's Edge is just a 0 for 3 pump on any stealth attack. Pretty simple. And Tarantula Toxin acts as a yellow shred on a stealth attack, but if we want to play this on a dagger, we can give it +3. We are not playing any of the stealth dagger synergies, either that be Kiss of Death or the Graphene Chaliceras. But if you did want to include those, possibly maybe over something like a Razor's Edge or the Infect, you definitely could to get the bonus value. But the fact that Tarantula Toxin can either be just that shred effect, which is also better for this deck, as we can play the shred effect before swapping with Azuri, and then if we swap into something like a CNC, it'll retain that shred debuff on the enemy card instead of a pump that we couldn't play on CNC. So that makes this card really nice. Or we can also close out a game by pumping up one of our Hunter's Claves if we need to, or swing at the Clave with the Toxin, and if they try to block the Clave, we make them waste the card by using the Toxin. And then the last red card in the deck is just a Nick. This gives us +5 on any of our 1 power stealth attacks, which is incredibly powerful, pretty much turning any of these into a 6 on its own, as well as giving that stealth attack on hit, banish the top card of the opponent's deck, which doesn't really matter for most of them, but it's still just some extra banishment in case. The last 2 cards in the deck are yellows. Codex of Frailty as the ultimate assassin card. I know I said Leave No Witness is the best assassin card. I still feel like Leave No Witness is the best assassin card, but Codex of Frailty is the best assassin ranger card. Obviously, being able to be played in both classes definitely gives it its high price tag, especially when Assassin and Ranger, I feel like, are 2 of the more popular classes in the game alongside Illusionist. Codex of Frailty just gets so much value, especially in Azuri, as you can get things back like Leave No Witness, or you can get back a stealth attack that can be used to turn into a big thing later, but of course be careful with that because you do have to discard a card if you're doing that. Mainly, it's a way to get back your 4th to 6th copies of Leave No Witness in the late game, as well as disrupt your opponent with whatever they have to do to put in their graveyard or put in their arsenal, and you give them that frailty token. The last yellow in the deck is Take Up the Mantle, which lets us, alongside Flick Knives, turn any of our stealth attacks into any of our other stealth attacks, really helping us with that. Is it a 2 for 6 or is it a stealth disruption synergy? Mainly, we want to use this to turn things into things like Bonds of Agony or Persuasive Prognosis, as those are the 2 most disruptive effects, but we don't mind turning things into Mark of the Black Widow or either of our red stealth attacks. Really, the only thing we don't want to turn a stealth attack into is Isolate, as the Dominate is better before it becomes something else than after it becomes something else. With all that said, let's take a look at the inventory. The inventory, I think, is pretty normal. Most assassins play 3 to 2 AB Spell Void pieces. We are no different. We are playing the head, the chest, and the shoe. For our 1 arcane matchups, I would consider the chess piece, as those games probably won't go very long, considering the only deck really that we're playing 1 into is Aurora, and damn, those games are fast. Other than that, there are some matchups you only want 2 AB, in which we will most likely be bringing the helmet, as we want the go again from our shoes, but depending if the Earth Heroes tend to be more defensive going into this next format, we'll play the shoes over the helmet so we can get a bit of extra disruption. There are sometimes mainly matchups like Kano that will probably go for all 3 just to be the safest as possible. For the rest of the inventory, we have 2 more disruptive pieces, the Weakest Link and Erase Face, to help us deal with some of those 0 block or traded heroes that are running around now. Still very powerful, even though 2 heroes that these cards pretty much beat are gone. There's still a lot of heroes that the Weakest Link and Erase Face are good against. Things like Aurora, things like Acilio are very prominent, and especially Acilio, who might make that comeback after Enigma went. And Erase Face also being very good against the Draconic heroes or anyone else who cares about their class cards, which could possibly be some of the new heroes coming up. Maybe. We'll have to see what new support they get. Other than that, though, we have our 3 red shred for any deck that's playing a large amount of D-Reacts, as this can just straight up remove them. And then we're playing some D-Reacts of our own, 3 copies of Sink Below and 3 copies of Shelter from the Storm. Instead of me saying to play Fate Foreseen if you don't own the Shelter from the Storms, I would recommend Calming Breeze instead of Shelter from the Storm, because Calming Breeze will help us deal with some Assassin and Runeblade matchups, as landing 1 point of damage off of a Flick Knives or a Rune Chant could be a key determinant of the game. So I would recommend, as I said, playing Calming Breeze over Shelter in this deck specifically if you didn't own Shelter from the Storms. And then, of course, Sink Below is fairly cheap. You should be able to get those. The last card in the sideboard is That All You Got. This can come in versus Aurora or any other deck that plays low power things. I've seen this come in against Syndra a lot. This has come in against me on Syndra a lot. And it feels like it always does something when it's drawn. I feel like I always have the Ignite when they have the That All You Got. Against Aurora, this blocks the weapon perfectly. It's literally the best card you can put in front of the weapon. So you'll want to bring this in for that situation. But other than that, there isn't really much to say about the sideboard. The only other card you could probably consider is Sigil of Solace for games that go a fairly long amount of time. But I think if you're worried about a game going a longer amount of time to where the life gain would actually matter, I think it'd be pretty close anyway to where the Sigil wouldn't matter all too much. You could just play other disruption or defensive tools instead. I understand the reason why you want Sigil. It's just something that I don't really feel is as powerful. But again, you could always play it if you really wanted to. Probably over the red shreds, because they kind of fit that similar game plan of if it's a longer game where I really want the life gain, I would rather have the Sigils or the shreds to help do different things. I'm someone who wants my games to end, not my games to go longer, even though I generally do tend to be a control player. I just prefer Shred for that reason. But with all of that, that is going to be the end of the video. I've decided that that other video I'm working on is probably going to come out after my semester's over, which is only a few weeks left. So look out for that one, I guess. That one might be uploaded on Thursday. I'm still not sure yet. Next week, not sure what deck list we're going to go over. I just figured Azuri would be pretty good considering that we looked at new last week and this is an assassin set. Maybe we take a look at warrior next week. Maybe I make a video on the Great Axe. What is it called? Is it Destructive Great Axe? The 3-for-4 warrior weapon that people play, since that saw a bit of showing at the most recent big event. I believe it was the Pro Tour. I think it saw a bit of showing on camera. And that will be a pretty interesting one to take a look at. But until then, I'll see you all in the next video. I hope you had a good day. Goodbye.